Welcome to the DTS Fitness Education Podcast. My name is Ben McDonald, and I am here with Brett Jones from StrongFirst. How are you, brother?
Fantastic, Ben. It's great to have the opportunity to be on the show today and connect with you and your audience.
Fantastic, my mate. Fantastic. So what we're going to do is let's get right into the meat and potatoes, Brett. What you saying?
Let's do it.
Okay, so question number one. When it comes to unconventional training, what are your top pieces of equipment, Brett, and why?
Well, my unconventional training is rather conventional, I think I would say. When I started swinging bells, I got my first bell in late 2001. Got certified at Pavel's second ever workshop in February of 2002. When I started swinging bells, it was truly unconventional training. Nowadays, it's you walk into hotel fitness rooms and there's kettlebells, and they've become a very common tool, which I'm thrilled about. I think it's funny that when I was initially traveling and teaching and doing these things in the early 2000s, people telling me that this was a fad and this would fade and all this other stuff, and I'm like, we're still doing all right. I've been traveling and teaching with Pavel for coming on 17 years now. And it's taken me all over the world. And so my version of unconventional training became conventional as time went by. But certainly kettlebells in Indian clubs, body weight training. Obviously, the barbell is one of those traditional tools that you go to for high levels of strength. So those are my top pieces of equipment. I'm horribly simple in what I do. Most of my routines are 3 to 5 exercises of whatever I happen to be doing at the time. I'm just pretty darn simple, and so my unconventional training over the years became conventional because other people started doing it. So.
Mate, I think Da Vinci said it best, where he said, "Simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, my friend."
100%.
You know what I mean? So it might be simple, the movements might be simple, but there is a level of complexity behind what it is that you do.
And one of the ways I've always referred to that is, the simplicity is purchased at having gone down the rabbit holes of having, peeled apart the layers and put it back together and realized, the kind of the Bruce Lee quote, when I first started, a punch was a punch, a kick was a kick. And then basically, I'm paraphrasing, I can't remember the exact quote, but then basically, I tried to study this stuff, and in the end, a punch is a punch and a kick is a kick. And it's like, but you have to go through that process, and there's your ability as a coach to quickly, efficiently transfer information, teach people. That's purchased at having ripped that thing apart 100 times and put it back together in more efficient ways.
Yeah, I agree 100%, my friend. And then just to touch on what you were saying a minute ago there, Brett, it's funny how the I put the unconventional in brackets because it's just become like mainstream. It's like when I first started, I first started with a lot of club training and mace training. So I made my first set of clubs about 15 years ago. I made out of an old spin lock barbell and some steam tube. You know what I mean? It was they were dangerous, because they always come loose. It was like plates would fly off. People are getting hit. You know what I mean? So it was, at the time, it was unconventional, but then it becomes mainstream and becomes more conventional. But you know where I'm going with it, mate.
Absolutely.
Okay, question number 2 then, Brett. What are your absolute bread and butter movements with a kettlebell?
Well, again, to be horribly simplistic and to base off of simple and sinister, swings and get-ups. The kettlebell swing sets the foundation for hip hinging and ballistics. It is a tremendous form of power training with unique overspeed eccentrics. It's just fantastic. The get-up is alignment with integrity under load. It is learning how to move your body from the ground up while handling this, and so it builds a lot of multiplanar strength and stability and midsection, and so those two movements, those are Those are the foundation. As we kind of pull out the snatch, kettlebell snatch is really, if you wanted the kind of ultimate minimalist routine, you would snatch. It checks a lot of boxes, takes care of a lot of things. The kettlebell military press and the kettlebell front squat, those simply, tremendous strength work. So, as we pull out from the center of swings and get-ups and we start to build our circles, and then I'm a big fan of, and have become reacquainted and a big fan again of things like the single leg deadlift and some of these just, and you can do single leg deadlift with dumbbells or pet, small child. I mean, what you're doing with, and that's a joke, by the way, for those, for people in your audience. I'm glad you laughed, because I've people are like, wait, what? Large pet, small, what? But, and some of the unique moves, just the Clarion design of the kettlebell, this cannonball with a handle on it, just makes it very easy to pass hand to hand to use for a variety of lifts. So those are where I keep my focus as far as kettlebell training. And then, we'll talk later about some of the other drills, but those, drawing out from that center of swings and get-ups to snatches to presses and squats, and then some of the other unique moves you do, you have I could program somebody for the next 10 years based off of those moves.
Nice, mate. Nice. And do you know what? We actually, when it was back in the UK, we developed a course which was like training younger athletes or whatever it was at the time. I can't remember. It was years ago now. And we had to actually put a disclaimer in the manual where it was like, please do not use children as a resistance training tool. I thought it was brilliant. You know what I mean?
Oh, that's funny.
Fantastic. Okay. So, what would be your top tips for improving more ballistic movements, Brett? And where would you see these fitting into a client's program?
I think more people need to spend more time grooving their deadlift. The swing and the ballistic hip hinge that we use, and that ballistic hip hinge is the same whether we're talking about swings, cleans, or snatches. That is based off of this kettlebell deadlift. Kettlebell deadlift is unique, in my opinion, in that my center of mass over the kettlebell center of mass, I have super easy time connecting my lats in and really teaching somebody how to sync up and become one piece. Very rarely, if ever, have I not been able to improve someone's ballistic back and revisiting their deadlift. And that slow motion opportunity to perfect that hip hinge pays off when you go back to the swings and the other ballistic movements.
Nice. So own slow.
Yeah, and that's something that a few years ago, and I don't know, I've been in and around the industry for over 25 years, and things come and go, and sayings and points of view become popular. And at one point, it was, if you train slow, you'll be slow. And so people started to push back and push away from this idea of this good slow strength. And it's just not true. Martial artists have been practicing slow motion katas for a few thousand years. They're not slow. Granted, if all you did was move slow, yeah, you'd probably run into some problems. But in a well done program, slow strength. And so where I see the ballistics fitting into somebody's program, there's a couple different directions there. I mentioned already that the swing is tremendous power training, and this unique loaded overspeed eccentric that you get into with swings, cleans, and snatches. And so it fits in as far as power training is concerned. If you structure work rest ratios, output high, it's tremendous for conditioning. A la, whether you're looking at Simple and Sinister, whether you're looking at Pavel's new book, The Quick and the Dead, you're looking at something that can accomplish conditioning and power. That's where I fit those in for people's programs.
Nice, nice. Well, that's I like that, my mate. I like that. So it applies to multiple. It's multiple faceted.
Absolutely.
I like that word, faceted, mate. I think it sounds good. It rolls off the tongue. Okay, what about more grind movements, Brett? So what are your top tips for improving grind movements, and where would you see these fitting into a client's program?
Two directions. Improving grinds is really three directions. Improving grinds is all about controlling the breath and intra-abdominal pressure. It's about to get tight. And that's not getting tight for the purpose of getting tight, because we can all sit here and squeeze ourselves to the point where we can't move and we twitch, and that's not very effective. We refer to it as the dominanta, meaning enough tension to enhance the lift. Tension is not the goal of the lift. If I'm trying to press a heavy bell, I can sit there and get so tight that I actually inhibit my press. I want enough tension throughout my body to facilitate that press. Breath control is the first step in that, knowing how to get maximally tight so that you can dial it down to the level that you want. And then what connects the body together and makes a lot of grinds better are the lats. So if you know how to minimize your tension to enhance the lift, and you know how to connect the lats into whatever you're doing, you are better at your grinds and your slow strength, max strength sort of applications.
Nice, mate. Nice. So how would you drop that into a client's program? Where would you see those fitting?
So obviously depends on the ultimate goals and stuff like that. But if you look back at classic program design, you did, and then you did some sort of strength work, and then you did some sort of conditioning work, which became known as metcons. And then you had a cool down. Like if you just peel back to the most basic layers of program design, I think your strength work should be done early and fresh in the program. This is not where we're chasing fatigue. I think too often strength training has become meshed in with conditioning, where you're fighting fatigue. And for strength work, fatigue is the enemy. If I'm really trying to enhance my strength. So these grinds and strength-based lifts, typically early in the program, although I've done the opposite, where a program like Quick and the Dead, when I was prepping for our SFL barbell cert, I was using the snatch protocol that's in Quick and the Dead. I would do that at home, and then I would go to the gym to hit the barbell. And I just felt really prepared to go do my barbell work, because that sort of conditioning protocol is actually, it gives more than it takes. And so I was ready for my barbell work. As with most things, I can talk either direction, but basically, fatigue is the enemy of strength. So you want to make sure that you're optimizing your strength work outside of the presence of fatigue.
Nice. That's fantastic. And like you say, Brett, it depends. You know what I mean? It's just like, it depends on the overall. You know what I mean? It's that's how it goes. You know what I mean? I like. I actually, my background is combat sports, so I'd do some bell work. And I always found that once I'd done some bell work, I'd start with clubs to open myself up, then go into some bell work, and then fire into bag work. And then what I would find is my nervous system was so amped up after doing like the opening up with the clubs and then going into the bell stuff, that my nervous system was so amped up and aligned that as soon as I dropped onto a bag, mate, I just felt rapid. and solid when I landed my shots, because it was all, like a lot of posterior chain stuff. So boom, when he hit a bag, everything just stabilized up. I found that works really, really sort of well. So as you said, I suppose it just depends on the overall objective, you know?
Absolutely, absolutely, and then how much fatigue you're accumulating. There's a lot of factors involved, and people tend to, well, people perceive. Pavel has an interesting quote in his book: "Intensity is the output, not the effort." And we've turned a lot of our and conditioning work to kind of the over-the-top mentality where you're going to get intense, so you turn your ball cap around backwards and get ready, and it's all about the grunts and the groans and everything like that. It has more to do with the output than the facial expressions. So yeah, it's tuning the neurological system, being amped and prepped, just shows a proper level of work before that goal activity, because your goal, you were getting fit to be a better combat athlete. And one of the things that's happened, this will be kind of we're taking a left.
Let's do it.
So in traditional training, there was a martial component to training, because most of our training systems come from training military and defense applications. So there was a martial component. There was a restorative component, because as you know, training for a combat sport and martial art or something like that, where you're getting beat around and thrown down, knocks you out of center. So you had to have restorative techniques that kept you healthy, that brought you back to center so that you could go do the thing that you were training for. And then there was a pedagogical body of knowledge that supported those other two components. And this is all from Dr. Ed Thomas, who's a tremendous resource and fantastic physical culture historian. But fitness has become our martial art. There are a lot of people out there training who training is the end goal. And that brings about seeing the burn. There's some things that come along with this kind of martial perspective of fitness, of using fitness as a martial art, that would be like, you would not have done that in your martial art training. You would not have, beat yourself to death with the kettlebells and then tried to get in the ring.
No,
like that's not smart. But we approach fitness now in a very unique way, in my opinion. And it is, we were chatting, before we just hit record, and, I joke that the only place fitness comes before health is in the dictionary. And it is called health and fitness for a reason. And, I'm not a combat athlete, but I do enjoy going hiking and being able to do things with my family. And so I stay fit and do the things that I do so that I can go hike and do things with my family and teach. And so I don't treat fitness as this kind of martial art sort of demonstration or challenge. I treat fitness as fitness, dare I say.
Yeah, I think I understand where you're coming from, mate. I think we fell into this sort of thought process where the gym gets you better at the gym, whereas like in DCS level 1, we talk about the gym being there to get people better at life.
Yep.
So if we can do that, then everyone's a winner. By proxy, you get better at the gym, but the overall objective is to get people better at life. You know what I mean?
Yes, 100%.
Brilliant. I enjoyed that left, Brett. I thought that was quite good.
Well, thank you. I have more.
Excellent, my mate. All right. So, what modalities of training do you find really complement kettlebells, Brett?
Bodyweight and Indian clubs are natural tie-ins. Obviously, the barbell, if you're headed for more, big strength work. I actually haven't had much of an opportunity to work with the maces. I know people that use I'm going to say pushback on that, being a minimalist and having a very simplistic perspective. I do enough heavy Like when I started looking at club training and introduced to Indian clubs and things of that nature, heavy's not a problem for me. I don't need another reason to put more weight on the kettlebell or on the bar or whatever it is. So the light, quick, integrated, coordinated movements of Indian clubs really appealed to me as an adjunct to my other training. But yeah, I mean, just, as we joked in the beginning, those unconventional tools that have become very conventional, I think all of those fit in and tie in, and being good with your body weight, being able to move your own body. And we used to joke that the world's largest foam roller is the world, and any floor that you happen to be on. So just being skilled at getting on the ground, rolling around, moving, enjoying movement. We because physical education is disappearing from schools, and kids don't play the way we used to.
Yeah.
Kids are very early into some sort of structured sport, or not, and we don't just play. And that's kind of we're now in the position as fitness professionals where we're kind of gym teachers, trying to get people doing these different things and re-engaging their vestibular systems and literally rolling around and playing a little bit. And we now call it training.
I love a play every now and again, mate. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, you got to have fun, and there's times to get work done. The Mike Myers had a good quote from his family. This is just something you are till you can be silly again. And there's times to be serious in training. There's times to focus. I'm not. There's another left turn coming up.
Go for it, lad.
I'm not. You see people out there that approach training with a lot of adrenaline. They get amped, they get psyched for every set, for every thing that they're doing. You have to be able to approach your training with a very workman type attitude. The person that's throwing hay bales is not sniffing ammonia and getting psyched up to throw every hay bale. They're just throwing hay bales because it's Tuesday and the hay bales need thrown. And so you have to have a little bit of that with your training, in that you need to be able to just do this stuff. Because if you're constantly tweaking that adrenaline system in order to get amped and psyched for your workout, in my opinion, that's not healthy or sustainable. The adrenaline system, a NOS system on your car, so nitric oxide, and I guess anybody that's seen any of the Fast and Furious movies would know what that is. I've never seen any of them. I'm assuming it's part of the movies. They go really fast, so I thought there's got to be NOS involved. But if you have one of those on your car, you don't use it much because it burns the engine out very quickly. And so if you're constantly torquing on that adrenaline system, pardon me, and having to get psyched up, and I don't like music. To me, I'm usually listening to something that's pretty chill, even for my training. Like I'm just not I'm not I refer to it as "mommy didn't love me, daddy didn't hug me" music. Like I'm not like an angry music guy. I'm pretty chill, and my ability to flip the switch in my own head and go from zero to where I need to be in that moment is pretty good, that I've developed over the years, and bending nails and doing different things that I've done. Plus just being an angry little kid helps, because you can always tap into that when you need to. But anyway, that was kind of a left turn with some of the training stuff, but because I think that's important. I think that even if you look back at Louis Simmons and the West Side Barbell methods, and you have these max effort days, a component that some people lost track of is that those max effort days were meant to be with no psych, no adrenaline.
Yeah.
You were doing max effort days, but without the adrenaline. The adrenaline was saved for the platform.
Right.
It was saved for those true competitive, max effort attempts where it mattered.
Where you needed the nos.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, if you have some in the car and you need to get away from something, it can be very useful. Not that I've ever done that. I don't know. Yeah, it's the worst analogy ever for the most boring guy you've ever had on. So, yeah, but I just have a very kind of, I enjoy my training. And if I'm angry and getting psyched up, I don't know how enjoyable that is. I like swinging bells.
Nice. Hey, keep it simple. Keep it
That's
simple, my friend. I think, and you're in good company when you talk about just for the listeners, for Dr. Ed Thomas. He's basically the when it comes to Indian clubs, what that guy doesn't know about Indian clubs is not worth knowing. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I
No,
think
he's a tremendous resource. He's a great guy, and has forgotten more than I know about physical culture and training. Just a great background and great guy.
Yeah, I think I had his DVDs like years and years ago. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what I like to say when we talk about mace training, I have a little saying. Brett, and it goes like this: "Don't race to the mace." You see where I'm going? Because it's like people go, "Oh, I've been swinging this mace," and I'm like, "Yeah, have you done any club work?" Well, no. I just was like, I'm like, mate, you're taking something that is like the lever length is crazy, and then you're expecting to do like a similar movement as what you would do without any sort of precursor or qualification to go to that component. You know what I mean? So I always say to people, go Indian club. Obviously, like you can use your bells, but specifically for those movements, Indian club, heavy club, then like flip it over to the mace. Do you know what I mean?
I like that progression. And if you look at the traditional systems, everybody started with the light clubs.
Yeah.
Boxers, martial artists, those people that needed hand quickness and coordination, they stayed more in the light club sort of categories. The grapplers, the wrestlers, those people that were looking and building high levels of strength, they went to the heavier clubs and the maces. So there was a natural, as you just laid out, there was a natural progression within the traditional systems.
Yeah, I think if traditionally, if there's been something in place and it's like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Do you know what I mean? Just like there's a process laid out for a reason, eh, Brett? You know what I mean?
Success leaves clues, right?
Brilliant, my mate. Brilliant. Okay. Number 6, what is your number one tip for people who want to get into kettlebell work? What would you say? Is it they have to qualify or there's a precursor or whatever it may be? So what's your number one thing?
So I'm going to go 2 directions on that. Number one, I also teach and have been using the functional movement systems approach for quite some time. I've been teaching within the system since 2006. I actually worked with Gray at my training room and in his clinics in Chatham, Virginia from 2000. No, Jiminy Christmas. It's much earlier than that, 95 to 97. Don't let the baby face fool you. I've been doing this for a little while. And so our key number one principle is move well, move often. And if you draw that out a little bit, it means move well enough to be able to adapt in a positive fashion to the stress you're going to be placed under. And so it's not esoteric. It's very practically based. We're zooming up on the new year when New Year's resolutions are going to happen. The gym memberships are going to go up by 500 to 1,000 people at various locations, and it'll be crowded for 3 to 6 weeks, and then back to the regulars. And you'll accumulate a couple of extra people, but most everybody quits. A lot of those people did not move well enough to be able to adapt in a positive they were placed under. And it's not always an achy knee or an achy shoulder. Sometimes it's this thing you can't put in words that training just doesn't feel good. And I run into it a lot, and I'm sure you all have seen it, where, you know, how many kettlebell movements go overhead? Most of them.
Yeah.
And so, you know, people want to snatch, they want to press, they want to do the get ups and the windmills and all these things that take the shoulder into this overhead position. They may not have the neck health or T-spine mobility or movement capability that makes them efficient overhead. And so that those are going to be bad exercise choices because you don't move well enough to adapt in a positive fashion to that stress. So I think if everybody would clear that barrier first, just manage your minimums. It's not about moving perfectly. That's never happened. And so don't worry about it. You're not going to get there, but manage your minimums. These sort of baselines, be able to move well enough to adapt in a positive fashion. And then number two is get a coach. You know, when I mentioned getting my first bell in late 2001, and I had a decent background in training, and dumbbell snatches and things like that. So I figured out the kettlebell within a relatively short period of time. A lot of people, because we come from this culture that doesn't left turn, kids are coming out of high school. They haven't had the physical education. They haven't been taught the basics of exercise. And so later in life, they're like, oh, I need to work out. And I saw this on TV. And so they get a kettlebell, or they get clubs, or they get mace, or they try body weight training, whatever the case may be. They hop into these things with no movement literacy, no movement ability in their background that makes them able to adapt and learn that tool. Enter the coaches, right? We're here to assist in that journey and get people up and running towards their goals. And so move well enough to adapt in a positive fashion, get a coach.
Yeah, makes sense, my mate. Makes sense.
Yeah.
I think we come at it from the same direction. Is we talk about capacity versus demand. So you've got to have the capacity for the demand of what it is that you do. You know what I mean? If you don't have the capacity, then something's going to break down, whether that looks like injury, fatigue, or like whatever it may be. If you step outside your capacity with the demand of movement or workout, it can be whatever, like VO2 max. You've not got the conditioning for a certain workout, whatever it may be. Capacity versus demand is a key piece. And I know that the guys, the coaches for that have been through StrongFirst are crisp. You know what I mean? They know the stuff, and they've been through a fantastic system. You know.
Thank you. It's been building and working within the system for quite a while. It's always great to see that. And we, years ago when we got started, we were one of the first that really started asking for technical proficiency and a level of capacity and demand within what we were doing. And I'm always thrilled to hear things like that. And we hold people to those expectations, and it's always wonderful when they meet them and go out there and share the message.
Nice, Brett. Okay, so mate, not the final thing. Let's not jump to that yet. What's been going on with you, brother? What's been happening with you and your team?
Oh my gosh. We've just been very, very busy. Within my two worlds, I like to joke, I only keep 3 jobs. It turned out 4 was too many, but 3 I seem to be able to manage. Within functional movement systems, where there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes and progressing some of the curriculum that we'll be moving forward with in the future, and just refining what we do within StrongFirst. Lots going on. We're in 52, 53 countries now. We have several hundred events a year all over the globe. I'm just wrapping up the 2020 curriculum update and getting everything ready for the coming year. We have some online courses that are launching very soon. Hashtag Cyber Monday. And so we've just been very busy with all of that, and the traveling and the teaching and So yeah, I mean, that consumes me. And then I do see some clients and have some personal training and online clients that I work with. But I've gotten so busy with everything else that it's hard to make time for everything.
Mate, and I don't know how you keep your youthful good looks if you know what I mean, when you're that busy.
Smoke and mirrors. I have the lights just right, so you can't see exactly as well as the very wise Dr. Indiana Jones noted in his first film. It's not the years, honey; it's the mileage. So the exterior, the paint job still looks good.
That's Billy. It's all about the angles, mate. It's all about the apparently it's all about the angles. All right then, my mate. We have come to the end. We have come to the part that everybody is waiting for. The questions that matter. And Brett, this one, I've asked a few people and it's been informative. So, who would win a confrontation between a great white shark and a saltwater crocodile, and why?
Well, I've seen both ends. I've seen the pictures, and most of these come out of Australia, because if there's one place on the globe that is just hazardous to life in general, it's Australia. And it's a fantastic. If you've ever read Bill Bryson's In a Sunburned Country, Bill Bryson's one of my favorite authors. He's tremendous, and he wrote a book called In a Sunburned Country about Australia. So just I've never been there, but I read a book once. So I've seen the pictures of heads of saltwater crocodiles that have washed up on the beach that have been bitten off by the shark. And I've seen sharks that have been bitten in half by a saltwater crocodile that have washed up. So I'm thinking it's a draw depending on the size of the beast.
Ooh, Brett, you are firmly on the fence there. I've not heard that yet. Like, it's a draw.
I think it's a draw, and it just get back to our "it depends" statement. You give me some killer 20-foot saltwater croc versus a 10-foot shark. I don't know. Maybe the saltwater croc's got the edge. Whip a little tail and stun it, and then take a nice bite. Maybe the shark's a big 15-footer that just bites the croc, and I don't know. I'm going right down the middle. I'm calling a draw.
I like that, mate. I like that. Well, hey, it's unique. We've not had that yet, my mate. So, hey, Brett, thank you very much for being on the show. It's I've enjoyed it, mate. It's been great. And them left turns, that's me right. Left turns have been fantastic, my mate. So, thanks very much for being on the show. And I'm going to finish it with a go, Brett Jones.
Why, thank you, sir.
Did you know that DTS Fitness Education are actually an education company? That's right. So if you like what you see and you would like a little more, go to dtsfitnesseducation.com and check out our live and online courses.